Hello, everyone. Welcome back to theCUBE's continuing coverage of the AWS Financial Services Symposium 2025 in New York City. I'm Scott Hebner, and I'm here with Jessie Skibbe, the head of AWS Security Assurance Services, and Brian Jakovich, the managing director at Vertical Relevance, an AWS partner specializing in digital transformation in the financial services sector. Thank you both for joining us here today.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you.
It's been a really good show so far. We've learned a ton here, and I think the crowd has doubled than what it was last year. So a lot of interest in what's going on with AWS and financial services, which is good to see. But Jessie, let's start with you. Just get the big picture here for those financial services institutions that are unfamiliar with AWS Security Assurance Services. What specific gaps in cloud migration and risk management do these services cover that other AWS services do not?
Yeah, I think it's interesting. Not every AWS customer knows that we have a highly specialized team of industry certified auditors that actually help our customers navigate the complexity of compliance on AWS. And so our practice is entirely on the customer side of the shared responsibility model, Scott. So we help customers as they migrate to the cloud, provide that assessor lens to make sure that they're able to meet their regulatory obligations. So very big, important feature that they have to comply with when they migrate to AWS. And so we help them accelerate that journey as they're moving to the cloud.
So we're here at a financial services conference. Do you do that across industries, or is it primarily in the highly regulated industries like financial services?
Yeah, it's a majority of our business is financial services, but we do also quite a bit of work in the public sector space, healthcare, as well as energy is trending. And so essentially wherever there is obstacles that our customers have to overcome as it relates to compliance obligations, regulatory scrutiny, that we can help them. I mean, it's not something that we would turn anyone away. But the biggest pain points is typically with financial services, given the number of regulatory requirements that they have to meet and the ever-changing global landscape connected to that.
Yeah, you've hit on my observation, which is it's ever evolving, isn't it?
Yes.
For landscape, particularly in fintech. So how do these services help translate these very complex frameworks that I know in financial services you have to really pay attention to, like the federal financial institutions examination cloud and OCC and SEC regulation, all those kind of things. How do you help them turn those into actionable blueprints that can speed the approval process along the finance team?
What's interesting is that it's quite simple. I guess in my opinion, I've been doing this for a little over 6 years now, and it's a translation of a non-technical requirement to a technical implementation, right? Like everything in the cloud environment is code. And so how do you take a very high level regulatory requirement that's sometimes written as in legalese, how do you take that and turn it into deployable code in your AWS environment? And so we have been able to do that successfully in developing that deep skill set on AWS and also having that auditor viewpoint, right? Like we're able to translate all of those requirements into essentially a codified environment to be able to automate. And also, not only the deployment of the AWS environment, but also continuous monitoring and the ability to audit without screenshots or shoulder surfing. And so we take a very non-technical requirement and we translate that into the technical requirement that a developer needs to be able to build.
And then help them evolve with the regulatory landscape, right?
Right.
Got it. So Brian, let's pull you into this. Just tell us a little bit about Vertical Relevance and your partnership with AWS.
Yeah. So, Vertical Relevance, we are a business and technology consulting firm, really focused on doing a couple things really, really well. So one, we only work with AWS, which is why Jessie and us have such a tight relationship. And then we primarily focus on financial services, almost exclusively. So really, it's having that combination of that business experience and understanding what these financial services customers are struggling with and how to approach that. So the different regulatory requirements, the MRAs and MRIAs that they deal with, really everything around that. And then that deep technology experience of building and automating the controls that Jessie is referring to has really, that's really where we excel. And where the SaaS relationship and the SaaS relationship and us have really molded together is um, their expertise in providing, being able to do the auditing, right? Providing that experience to the customer, and then our tight relationship of us building the controls has really been kind of a match made in heaven, where we've really helped a lot of these big financial services customers build and develop and streamline their operations to the point where, they're not, as Jessie referred to, they're not screenshotting things, right? They're not, going through very long and tenuous cycles of their auditing activities. Instead, we're automating these things end to end, and they have click button activities. So it's really been a great relationship so far, and we're excited to continue it.
So basically, it's two sides of the same coin. You guys are partnering to come together and help solve slightly different facets of what the client needs.
Very much so. And there's a lot of blend throughout the entire activity. Yep.
So what are some of the unique capabilities that you bring to the AWS Security Assurance, services in terms of the value prop, and then how do you actually avoid, duplication of effort, particularly when you're in these larger firms that probably have a lot of partnerships going on, a lot of projects?
Yeah, so I think really from our perspective, where we really focus in on is the hands-on technical capabilities, right? Building the controls, bringing and building assets that we have that automate the control development, and then basically creating that entire landscape of everything that needs to be accomplished in order for the audits to go ahead and pass. So that's really where we've been majority of our focus is providing that hands-on expertise, the capability plus the assets that we bring to basically reduce the time, the cost, and the risk of building out these very large control landscapes.
And Jessie, as the other side of the coin, then you're obviously focusing on the auditability and the translation. Is that how more of the business
Yeah.
things? Is
I
that how
will
you?
add just a little tiny bit of history too. We kept finding ourselves working on similar projects with vertical relevance. And so what's interesting, Scott, is that now we're proactive about how we work together, making it easy for the customer to say, I need help automating my compliance. I need to unblock our cloud migration because we're being held by security assurance, for example. And so now when a customer needs that type of help, they can contact me, they can contact Brian, and we're going to come together with work streams that we've delivered for multiple customers. So we've taken some of the reactive confusion out of it, and we've come forward with this very direct partnership where we can guide the customer in a much more accelerated fashion.
Yeah, I suspect the more you work together, the more you create best practices and you continue to get better and better at what you're providing.
Exactly.
Yep.
Yeah. Well, how about could you give us a concrete example of maybe perhaps a security engineering solution where you guys have packaged up, a partnership and something like real-time payment workloads or something like that, and what the ROI and outcomes that come from that?
Yeah, so there is a very large, so this is the real world of working to so a very large payment company that was going through the process of really rebuilding part of their really half of their business on AWS, and as part of that they had to put in really from ground zero all the controls to satisfy different compliance requirements. Say PCI would be one of them, but they also need to be able to do the auditing at many times a year, right? 50, 100 plus times per year, which is much more than your standard operating procedure. So they simply wouldn't have they could not do this in a manual capacity, or they'd have to hire a small army and reduce the capacity in which the product could flow through to be able to make different changes to products and such. So as part of that, we really joined forces working through building out an entire compliance So from what they consider the AWS landing zone, so the baseline of an AWS environment, and all the controls to satisfy PCI and many other compliance requirements, and then provide this from an automated evidence. So uh, basically, they got to the point where it wasn't how many person hours were spent on doing a compliance evaluation or doing an audit, right? It was really being able to spin up an environment and then click button to do the evidence collection, which it was unbelievably painful before, and it basically gave them the ability to operate a different capacity, working with the auditors and their customers that need to audit. I guess, Jessie, anything you want to add?
Yeah, I definitely want to add. I know the customer you're speaking about, Brian, and this is a memorable one because when they were first evaluating, can I move this workload to cloud, which is something that happens quite often. And this was a PCI workload. And the unique thing was that I have PCI QSAs, so qualified security assessors on my team that are also working for AWS. And so we were able to come in and do a really early evaluation of their environment and say, we know we can get you to being PCI compliant with this workload. So a lot of our customers will say, let's migrate, these workloads, but let's leave these PCI workloads still on-prem. And they're not able to leverage the innovative power of AWS because they're too nervous that they won't be able to meet PCI compliance. So we were there alongside of Vertical Relevance, and the outcome of this is pretty amazing because I know we were able to get them moving, I think it was a 40% faster in their migration journey. We were able to create a complete end-to-end automated evidence collection system where, and I don't remember the total number of assessments. It was like ongoing assessments throughout the year, but they were able to come back to us. I think it was like around 65% cost savings in performing assessments. So these were entire teams of people gathering evidence manually, but because of the work that we did, not only did we demonstrate that PCI compliance could be achieved, but we actually accelerated their audit, their internal assessment, saving them almost 70% cost. And so it was an incredible story. I know they've shared it in some instances, but it was a great combination of Vertical Relevance and AWS PCI QSAs working together to get this customer that had to have PCI compliance, like it was a business requirement. We were able to meet that requirement and help them save money as an outcome.
Like the joint offering goes from the initial design all the way to the implementation, and it's not helping to ensure a secure and compliant implementation, but you're saving money, you're saving time to production and speeding things up. And
it's like having an auditor and an engineer as best friends, and you can just call them up on the phone and say, hey, I need your help.
You guys are, I can tell.
Exactly. One of the other, so we're kind of talking about what there was a problem with auditing and how do you speed up that activity, reduce the level of effort from for doing these audits. But one of the outcomes also that they gained and lots of other organizations gained is the ability to really ramp up the development ability, right? When you don't have that being a blocker, right? Where every single time you want to make a change, release new product, being able to operate at speed and have this automated way of being able to validate, does this hit all my requirements or not? That's enabled their ability to really go wide with development and certainly increase their production throughput. So it's an added and very important aspect of doing this that often is overlooked.
So you're helping them secure by design right up front with the repeatable patterns that you learned over time, right through implementation. And in terms of, every day as things start to operate, my understanding is you have governance automation built into it, right? Guardrails, things like policy as code, preventive controls, detective alerts, all those kind of things that the more the dev teams, don't really need to worry as much about that and not trigger additional client compliance alerts and alarms. That's just going to allow them to move quicker, right?
Every time. Yep. It's the preventive, detective, reactive, and proactive controls. You put that around your ecosystem, and you're able to operate very, very quickly. It's a game changer.
So it's built, the automation's built into it in terms of the guardrails.
Yeah.
Yeah. So when you're talking, when you're talking to the development team, I mean, I think it's quite clear the value of this, because I know they stress out big time around regulatory compliance and security polls and things of that nature. But if you're talking to a CFO, how do you sort of bring to life the ROI of just having this, stronger, faster security governance built in, right, and allowing them to move quicker and things of that nature? I mean, how would a CFO look at this?
Can I take that one, Brian, and you can add to it? Because I
Please.
feel like the CFO, the CIO care about the same thing, and they make the decision to move to cloud because they want to get to that ROI. And in a heavily regulated environment, I've actually had customer scenarios where they would come back and say, well, we're trying to decide if we should slow down because we've got some considerable security governance controls to implement, or if we should speed up because a lot of times in financial services, they have resiliency requirements that they have to meet with their regulators. So a C-level executive that comes to me and says, I'm trying to decide whether or not I should slow down or speed up, what I say to them is, you can speed up if you speed up safely. Like a lot of the guardrails we're talking about, Brian was talking about, implementing compliance as code, bridging the gap between security and infrastructure, all these things that we can help to accelerate allows the CFO, the CIO to get to their faster ROI that they want to achieve by moving to cloud in a safe and secure way. So they don't have to make a decision between slowing down or speeding up. They can absolutely go fast, and we can help them be safe while they go fast.
Yeah, it's kind of like the decoder ring that aligns the CISO and the CTO's goals, right? That gets everyone on the same page.
So if we're sitting here a year from now, we're back here at this conference, what new controls or service integrations, what should financial institutions expect from this alliance as you go through time here, next couple of years or so?
Well, there's a good chance that Brian and I may be replaced by AI agents.
No.
If we're doing it right.
No, honestly, though, there's so much potential and innovation with AI in the world of compliance that I personally am so excited about. Not only leveraging AI to help customers automate their compliance, but creating controls around AI use cases is one of the things that we're really focusing on right now, because there's a lot of financial institutions that want to implement AI solutions, but they're very nervous about, how do I explain the risk mitigation strategy to a regulator? There are systems and solutions that we can build around AI applications. So honestly, we're going to be looking for better and more creative ways to leverage AI, both to solve compliance challenges and both placing compliance solutions around AI. That's my prediction.
Yep, and I echo that entirely. Right, we really would like to get all these customers to have a nice foundation in place, that they're accelerating, that they've kind of bought into the concept of compliance as code, that that they're able to move at the pace that the innovation requires. AI and generative AI included, but really enabling these customers to move at the speeds that they want to. That really is the goal.
Yeah, I've been doing a lot of research on the transformation from, AI assistants, which basically are what everyone's familiar with, right? They're task oriented. They're largely based on generative AI. They're automating tasks, helping you gather information, things of that nature. When you get into the world of agentic AI and AI agents, they're supposed to be able to help you, achieve goals and make decisions and problem solve, right? That's a whole new world. And my research is showing that some 67% are reluctant to move to that new world because of the trust issue. And trust being a combination of, making decisions, having the agents help you make decisions is a much bigger stake than, generating something or automating a known task. And you sort of unwind that trust issue, you get very quickly into security and regulatory compliance and privacy, and obviously the accuracy of all the, the decision making and the lack of explainability and all that. But I think as this world evolves into the world of AI and into agentic AI, what you guys provide together becomes even more critical, because those regulations, that landscape is not only moving fast and changing, but it's so fragmented, right?
Yeah, yeah. Honestly, it's a it's a great discussion topic about how you approach that, and you know, simply getting that foundation in place is really what's holding up a lot of these customers. A lot of these customers in financial services, they want to do more with AI, with agentic AI, right? They want to incorporate that as part of their workflows to be, for, let's say, asset management, to be able to handling the research instead of, or to be able to increase their speed of doing their analysis across different sectors or regions. But what their pain point is just simply being able to adopt it, right? Being able to incorporate that as part of their systems. And, it's a growing pain. But our hope is to be able to basically put the foundation in place so that they can build their agentic solutions, to build their RAG-based architectures, everything that they want to do. That's the goal.
And just I'd imagine, obviously this is a big journey, right? So it all starts with securing and making sure your cloud infrastructure is compliant. And then that's just going to make it that much easier to build the AI capabilities on top of it. So as you guys to the future, it makes a ton of sense. A little bit.
Well, there's a lot of potential to remove some of the lower level tasks and allow people to do higher value work. I mean, that's what I'm honestly excited about in this realm, because not only do we want to help customers adopt AI, because again, this is where we really add value, being able to translate how does an AI application work in that very technical lens. How do we translate and speak? How do we speak to a regulator about how that AI application is functioning? Like, that's something that we can help customers do, that translation, because we understand the underlying AI technology. And so I think that in itself is important, but to help customers look for ways to automate internal, very tactical processes that AI can do. I mean, I'm excited about all of it, to be honest, because there's so much, this world of compliance is so ripe for automation and innovation. And that's what Brian and I want to help our customers get to, so that they can do the higher value work, and secure the environment.
And those higher value opportunities are coming even faster. I mean, these innovation cycles are now moving at warp speed. And I can tell you the one thing I've definitely learned over my career in high tech is pay attention to what's happening in financial services, because what happens there often happens everywhere, right? There's not too many industries that are more complex to secure and deal with the regulatory landscape and just the fast-paced nature of it. So definitely a leading indicator of what's possible with technology. So Brian, Jessie, thanks so much for coming on theCUBE. It's been a pleasure talking with both of you. And for all of you, thank you for tuning in. You're watching theCUBE's coverage of the AWS Financial Services Symposium. Visit thecube.net and siliconangle.com to watch all the coverage of the event. And we'll be right back after a short break. We are the leader in enterprise tech news and analysis. See you again soon.